This morning I went to the annual Master Gardener's plant sale to get some plants for my garden, and it really got me into the mood to get into the planting spirit. How appropriate that today I should stop by Mad Science Brewing at Thanksgiving Farms, just south of Buckeystown, Maryland. Here we're going to take a look at some beer and a little bit of farm life. So stay tuned for a verdant springtime beer Atlantic. Have you ever stopped by your local garden center and decide, man, I wish I had a craft beer right now? Well, if you're at Thanksgiving Farms Garden Center outside of Buckeystown, Maryland, you wouldn't have to go far. Enter Mad Science Brewery. Brian,
Yes.
Mad Science Brewery.
Yes.
How long have you been open?
We've been open just over a year now.
Over a year now.
Yes.
Okay.
April 11th was our 1 year anniversary.
All right, this is attached to a retail produce farm.
Yes.
And are you connected to the farm in any way except that you drink beer here?
No, I'm actually an in-law. I married into the farm.
You married into the family.
Yes.
Okay. So was this your idea to make a brewery here, or was it their idea?
My idea.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I approached my mother-in-law end of 2011 with the idea. She was complaining about wanting additional revenue. What she can do, blah, blah, blah. I said, I just happen to be a home brewer. I know there's a bill coming up in the General Assembly in early 2012. So 2012, I was finally able to plant some hops.
Okay.
Proved that I could grow hops, that they would grow here on the farm, and then it was kind of an education process for the next couple of years before I kind of got the green light to move forward and start the full process of licensure.
Outside of the hops, is there anything that you grow here on the property that goes into the beer?
Fruits and vegetables. And I usually use those in season at the Randall. So our little infusing device at the tap.
Okay.
So I'll do different mixes as fruit comes in the season. And I've done pumpkins as well in the fall. So yeah.
So tell me, Mad Science, interesting name. Where'd you come up with that?
Actually, my friend Kevin Smith and I, over some beers, came up with the name. I was looking for something different, and I'm a scientist Monday through Friday, so it wasn't that much of a stretch just to throw Mad in front.
What kind of science do you practice?
Right now, I'm a regulatory affairs scientist, so I help my customers with drug and vaccine development projects.
All right, can't wait to take a crack at these. All right then. I got out onto the porch and I'm going to try out the beers that they have available here. One thing became instantly obvious, that this place is hop central. Brian definitely leans towards the IPA, so we're going to have a panoply of hoppy beers to try today. We're going to start off with the Black Death. It's a black IPA, and it is hop from local hops. It's a peculiarly sweet nose and palate, especially up front. But that bittering does come in to balance it out, which is nice because it's not so phenolic and roasty. We have its kissing cousin. This is the bubonic plague. It's the exact same thing as the Black Death, only it's been randallized with yet more hops. One thing about randallizing beer is it gives you an opportunity to introduce oxygen into your beer, which is never a good thing after it's done fermenting. In this case, I think that it suffered a bit from oxidation. We have a little bit of a flat note, and the hops have not popped out the way they would have if it was just a fresh, dry hop beer to begin with. And here we have the Human Harvester. It's like an amber, still in a hoppy IPA level, but it's got a British backbone to it. Almost as if it was an ESB with American hops. And that's excellent. Nice biscuity tone. I think I nailed it exactly whenever I said it's like an ESB, but with an American cousin. That's a good beer, and I think it should be probably one of their flagships. Here we have the Ricin. It is a rye IPA. We've had a lot of those lately. And the classic palate that you run into with the rye IPA is the heavy rosins that build up from that tannic, spicy rye note. Let's see if that happens here. Yeah, it's exactly what we're getting. A lot of rosin buildup in the back palate, which is, I think, what you're looking for in a rye IPA at this point. It is mitigated by a nice bready note of malt. The bitterness is not quite at IPA levels, weirdly enough. This is one of the more restrained offerings here. And now we're moving on to the Virus. This is considered a brown ale by tradition, pushes the levels of being a porter. Nice coffee notes. Sweet coffee, dries out quickly. I would go ahead and call this a porter. No bones about it. This is straight up porter, and a nice one at that. A nice moderate carbonation. The body's just right. Definitely getting a genuine British feel. He's obviously using some Maris Otter or genuine British malt in that. And we have the nitro version of the same beer. And I'm really turning into a fan of nitro-infused beers, especially in a porter, a stout, even IPAs lately. It really evens out and gives you a silky feel, which is what happens. I think that, for my money, the Virus and the Nitro Virus are their best beers here, with the Human Harvester being a very close second. If I had a chance to buy any of these in a 6-pack in a store, I'd do it.
I really like that Virus. Nice chocolatey coffee. That was good.
That's a great all day, all afternoon.
Yep.
Getting any craft beer enterprise off the ground is no easy task, no matter how large or small. Such was the case with Mad Science. Now, you mentioned the process that you began to start this. How did that process go for you? Was it easy sailing? Was it a nightmare?
The federal government was easy, the state government was easy, and Frederick County was the biggest pain in the butt.
In what way?
It took a year.
It took a year.
They took a year. The federal government took 2 months. The state condensed probably took about 2 months. And most of that was just waiting on snail mail because they still do everything paper through the mail.
Okay.
Whereas the federal government, everything's online for the most part. Frederick County, though, on the other hand, it was a battle.
So what's the plans for the future? What's the future for Mad Science?
Eventually, we'll have a brewing facility here on the farm. Right now, everything's contract brewed for us. So my recipes, I scale them up, hand them off to the contract brewer, provide some of the ingredients, some of the hops, some of the grains for those. So eventually, that will all happen here on the farm within the next 3 to 5 years.
But you're trying not to overspend initially, yeah?
Yes. My philosophy is I didn't want to go into debt right off the bat with $500,000 in debt. So I want to build the customer base, build the reputation, and then use that capital from doing this to help pay for as much as I can cash and take out just a very little loan.
Small steps.
Yes.
Awesome. So, Mad Science Brewing. What I find interesting was hearing Brian Roberts say exactly the same thing that Tom Barr said last week. When you're starting up a new brewing enterprise, he is really focused on not overspending, not overcapitalizing. It seems it's a very difficult industry to make money quickly. And if you put yourself behind the barrel with debt, it can be damn near impossible to get out of debt. It's a small margin industry. It's an agricultural industry at its heart, which is why I think Maryland has done a lot so far to invest in it, and yet perhaps it could do more. You talk to the Virginia breweries, and they really seem to have pumped a lot of effort, a lot of industry, a lot of passion into supporting the agricultural nature of the farm brewery. Maryland has created a special zone, whatever you call it, classification for farm breweries. But if they would invest the same amount of effort that they've invested in their wine production, maybe it could get a little further off the ground than it has already. And guys like Brian could do a lot more in a shorter amount of time. Thanks for joining me at the Beer Atlantic. Next week, we're going back to Virginia to try a new brewery down at a farmer's market. I'll see you then. Cheers. If I do my job right, it's recording.